So, just so you know about how to speak into a microphone, you put it up like right. I did not know I had this unmuted. I guess I don't. You want to right like close to your mouth. Don't hold it out here. Don't like have it in your mouth. That's disgusting. Just like have it right here. That's good speaking distance. Now, these are for the. Wait, we have 7 people now. No, that's okay. No, I mean, hey. I was about to say that's the inherent thing with the job is that everything's like constantly changing.
I know.
But
Well,
this is.
sometimes I have a student at the last minute that
Oh, that's
says
yours.
they
That's
can't
yours.
make it.
So that's the moderator's mic. Whoever's on the left 2 here,
I don't want to
take that mic. Middle 3 can take the middle mic. This side can take that mic. So I might be passing it around, but I've taken mics from the auditorium, from the Rosado Hall, and here to get all the wireless mics we have.
Do that. Let's disconnect it and just shove it there. Okay, I'm good. I'll take the end now. The flag was hanging off the stage. I was like, I'm definitely going to fall. I'm sorry.
This is not a book that we've used before because
Try not to crisscross the mics because I have them ordered like 1, 2, 3, so I want to know which ones to control. But yeah, good luck.
So in our
What if we
church,
talk loud enough that we don't need microphones?
just
I
say,
have that problem.
you know, as you grow in your professional career here,
This is
Well,
the
I'm not the
space
one
to
who
have
labels
your
them.
voice
I would
clear.
do that
We all know my
personally.
voice
it,
clear.
it made it obvious because you're sitting in the background on the board and you can go, I can tell when that person's on.
Part of it is like for aesthetic purposes, and we also have them marked on the bottom of the system. Usually we have them like on different sides of the stage. For close-up encounters like this, we probably would have your name.
You worked at GMB.
For what it's worth.
I work at GMB now.
Oh, yeah. No, no, you probably know all the story.
That's why I know your name.
That's not good. The guy that told all of the
We got more
stories
panelists
about
than we
me
have
is no longer
people.
there, so that's good. But he's retired. Don Glenn. He went to TP and then he got laid off from the industry and then he went to Bergman. He's retired.
Okay.
He's still a really good friend. So are you mechanical?
Civil.
I got 11:30. I always start on time. We'll give them another couple minutes to wait. She's doing building and architectural restoration and deals with the ventilation and wastewater, and she's got some really cool stuff. She works out in Seattle. Pardon? Seattle's a great place. Oh, you're from? Good, good. Do you know Jenny Haney? Actually, Jenny just got married, I think. Her father works at Boeing. She graduated 3 or 4 years ago. She did just get married. Or she's getting married this summer. I forget. I see her once a year at a wedding of one of the students in that class. So, you guys ready? Yeah, we're ready. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to Calvin. I hope you're having a good day and getting a good tour or however you've been spending your time. I know we have a tour of the engineering facilities after lunch that's going to get together in the atrium, the lower level of the atrium in the DeVries Science Building junction there. And so I encourage you to do that. But we wanted to we have found that having an open house or an open forum for questions has been a good way to have interaction with the people that are coming and the people that, we try to address the questions in all of the literature and the many things that we provide, but we can't cover everything exhaustively. So what are the questions that you have? And we have graduates and alumni and seniors to address the questions, and we're going to start by having them introduce themselves so that you know who you're getting your answer from. So, Cash, you want to start?
My name is Kason Anderson. I'm a senior mechanical student here. I also play athletics here, so I'm on the men's golf team at Calvin, and I've been here all my 4 years, haven't transferred in from anywhere else.
Hi everyone, my name is Torian Brown, and I'm a senior studying chemical engineering and biochemistry, and I'm originally from Portmore, Jamaica.
Hi guys, my name is Bryce, and I am a senior civil environmental engineer here, and I also have a minor in geography, and I'm doing the certificate program in GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems Mapping. And also, I am in a lot of music stuff here. So I do chapel teams, the honor choir, and lots of stuff like that.
Hey everyone, my name is Samuel Hoover. I'm a junior mechanical engineering student. I am also on the men's varsity swimming and diving team. And other than that, I don't really do much here at Calvin because that takes up all my time.
Hey everyone, my name is Mitchell Faria. I'm a 2014 graduate of Calvin. I graduated from here out of the civil and environmental engineering concentration. I work as a civil engineer for a local architecture firm called GMB, Architecture and Engineering. And I've been there since I graduated from here, so almost 8 years. It's a little bit of a different path in terms of civil engineering, but yeah, happy to talk about any of the curriculum coursework here, and also what I do day to day, which is more on the site development world.
I'm Alex Vandertag. I graduated in 2019 with electrical and computer engineering here at Calvin. I now work as a software engineer at Burke Machinery Company in Grand Rapids. Similar to Mitch, I'm happy to handle any questions, of course, about the Calvin experience, but also the benefit of us alumni is we can talk about outcomes a little bit as well.
Welcome. My name is Ashley Smith. I'm a 2006 graduate in mechanical engineering with a math minor. I did 5 years here, so if you have any questions about doing 5 years here, I'm your person. I am currently working at E3M Solutions. We are an MEP design firm. We also do work with energy, and we also do virtual design, construction, and coordination. Very similar to GMB, as he mentioned, and I also used to work at GMB as well. So also willing to answer any of the questions about life after Calvin, how you transition, and then I think I'm the oldest alumni here, so any questions maybe beyond that would be in my wheelhouse.
So you've got a good cross-section of what we do at Calvin. We don't have a student who's an electrical. We made up for it with an alum. But we've got electrical, mechanical, chemical, and civil all represented. And so I'll open it up. Who's got a good question or who's got a bad question that they want to ask?
What's the workload like here?
So can you repeat that? What's the workload like here? I have to repeat your question, otherwise it won't get onto the videotape. So what's the workload like here? Bryce, go ahead.
Workload here is highly dependent on, one, which concentration you choose, and also how much you're willing to do outside of engineering at Calvin. Typically, people do more than just engineering. This is a very academically rigorous institution, and so we definitely strive to get involved in as many things as we possibly can sometimes. So it depends. I think the kind of going idea is that civil might be a little bit less workload, whereas chemical might be a lot of workload.
Tori, do you want to respond to that? Because since he just attacked you.
I would definitely agree with that, with chemical engineering. Civils have it easy.
It's different.
But I definitely think that the workload is definitely manageable, especially since I am a RA currently, and I'm doing chemical engineering and biochemistry with a minor in business. I've also been involved with several different clubs and organizations, so it just matters, it just depends on how well you can manage your time.
So I'll add to that. The engineering program, and mind you, I've been gone from it for a little bit of time, is a very scheduled out program, if I may, right? So you start in it from your first semester here, and you start making your choices from there as you're exposed to the program. Typically, though, engineers are really good at scheduling their time, which is why, right, people are saying, we love to be involved in so many things, right? It almost feels like the more we get involved in, the better we are at excelling and managing our time, right? So there's a little bit of that component to this program and this, I will say, personality type, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, I mean, if you look at the four of us, like, we're all involved in things outside of our concentration. Like, I have a business minor as well, so a lot of us, we all have minors. We're in athletics, we're involved in other things. So, like, obviously this has been mentioned a few times, but there's plenty of room in your schedule to do other things and not just worry about studying all the time.
Bryce, are you getting a minor in music?
No. And that's something to point out, actually. If you want to be in music or athletics, you don't need to major in those things or even minor in those things. I have a minor in geography because I've just picked it up. I took so many geography classes because I love it. But for music, you can do music even while being an engineer. That sets us apart, actually. At a lot of places, you can't do anything but engineering if you're studying engineering. But because we're a liberal arts school, meaning that we can do all sorts of different subjects, we do have the opportunity to participate in those things.
And I wanted to clarify that because I think music there are a lot of engineers that are passionate about music, and yet it's the most separate that we go, and there's the least overlapping classes, so it would be harder to get a minor where there's less overlap. But another senior, Kelsey Yen, plays in jazz band. Jack Vandermolen has done an incredible amount. I think he is getting a minor, but wow, yeah. So it's done that there are, from golf to outside activities and minors, 2 minors, to Bryce's activities in music, to swimming, to whatever we want to get into. Those activities are all available. Yeah. Let me repeat it because the videotape won't pick up. So the question was, they're from Seattle specifically for sports, specifically for athletics, specifically for swimming and engineering. And so how does that, how have you managed that, Sam, in terms of skipping my class or?
I might almost argue that I've had an easier time with engineering than the rest of them because of how many engineers there are on the swim team. Just with swimming, like, I've found in the past that it takes a lot of mental willpower to be able to swim and do the events and do that sort of thing. So pretty much everybody's major on the team is either engineering or nursing. So in my grade alone, I think there's 6 or 7 different guys who are engineers, and there are probably 6 or 7 different guys in every class, which is really cool because we get to pass down our knowledge and help out with homework. So we'll actually all go meet in the engineering building after swim practice. We have team dinners. So we'll have our team dinner, and then we'll go to the engineering building and all sit there and do homework together, which is a really cool experience because it's like a built-in study group and built-in friends. So, yeah.
I have a question about that. Do you get access to working your classes around your schedule then also?
There is a new class schedule that's rolling out this year. Dr. Timmer has been working for it. He's the head athletic director. He's been working for a couple years, and with the Student Senate from this past year, they rolled out a new athletic schedule. So we'll be having classes from 8:30 to I think 4:30 is the latest you can have a class, which leaves time between 4 and 6:30 completely blocked for athletic practices. So now you will have no time to miss practices. And then the lab schedule, Tuesday, Thursday, with the extended classes on those days will also fit into that athletic schedule.
And the same goes for music ensembles. We'll also be able to go during that time, which is really neat.
And there are meets, and there are events, and there are tournaments, right? And so do you have to deal with faculty members and coordinate absences from class? And how is that received?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've never had a single issue with any of the engineering professors here about missing class for tournaments. Like Professor Tübingen, for example, he's always supportive, right? Like saying good luck, like do well in things. He's not.
That's not exactly true. What's the rule?
Most of the time. Well, he said, I'm only excused if I win. So that's it. But yeah, they're usually really nice and they're really easygoing with that, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, they usually they ask for like a week in advance, like, hey, we're going to be missing for this X amount of time. And the professors here really do want you to succeed. So they will do everything in their willpower to ensure that you can do everything that interests you so that you can follow the path that you want to, that you either feel called to or that you feel is paved for you. So
I will add to that I work with a former alumni who played basketball here, and they did quite well that year, going to nationals and things like that. So my understanding from the stories he tells me and from being in classes with him at that same time is if he had a game, he had to be gone. And the good thing about Kelvin is the class sizes are small enough and manageable enough, and the professors are accessible. So if you have a problem, it's pretty easy to chase one of them down, throw some time on the schedule that works between the two of you, and find some time to get a better understanding of information that you missed or talking through a concept maybe that you're struggling with. So that can be kind of applicable to everyone, is the classes are really manageable, the professors are really accessible from my experience, and the doors are typically always open. So the engineering area of classes and the building kind of becomes like a second home at times for you, and you feel really comfortable just walking in and starting up a conversation.
So I'll add on, and this may not directly address your question, but there may be others curious in the room, and it sort of ties into the question about workload as well. And somebody already mentioned time management, right? And that's not there's no class here on time management, but that is the first thing that all of you will learn in the program. To offer just a little bit of an alternate perspective, I originally intended to come here and play on the tennis team as well as studying engineering. And maybe this makes me like the underachiever of the group, but for me, the time management and knowing myself, I ultimately decided to stop playing tennis fairly quickly. But I bring that up just because, again, I think we can come in with these different notions of what we want, but similar to what Bryce is saying about music, I stopped playing a varsity sport, and I played men's volleyball, which is a club sport here, slightly lesser commitment. I also did a lot of intramural sports and other things. I mean, so there's just different levels of, you know yourself, you certainly will have to prioritize and manage your time and say, what are my top things? But there's multiple ways to get involved, even if you're sort of on the fence about being an athlete. Intramurals are a great way to meet people and still get some of that exposure as well.
I think your comments of time management, that the athlete is pushed to a higher level of time management, but the athlete is pushed in a lot of ways, and that's what gets that athlete where they are. They're a driven individual, and that if you're going to come here, or you need to apply that drivenness to your time management and to your involvement in your coursework as well as to the sport. So I think one of the things that was mentioned briefly is the small class sizes and availability. And that is a huge advantage because Kaysen's teammate, Jack, where's Jack today? He's in the Sweet 16 for basketball, so he'll be absent from my class at 2:30 this afternoon. I know that. He missed it on Wednesday as well. But that's the level of relationship that we have with our students, that, yeah, I can tell you exactly who's missing and when and why. And sometimes it's sports, and sometimes it's employment commitments. And for seniors right now, sometimes it's interviews. And all those things are taking place because the student that, we're not trying to produce successful engineers, we're trying to produce successful people, and engineering is only an aspect of that. Sports are a big aspect of that. Yeah? Can I summarize that by saying your transition to the workforce and how does the dream of engineering that some of you are going to have compare to the reality of engineering that you're now living? Is that fair?
I'll start off. So I studied electrical and computer engineering, and I was convinced my entire time I was at Calvin that I would not do software. Software was a no-go for me. And I interviewed for a few different positions. You name sitting behind the desk the whole time. One of the jobs I didn't get was because I said I didn't want to sit behind a computer desk all day. Well, that's what I do now. And I do software. And it wasn't for lack of other options, but I chose the company I was interested in. And I love it. It's drastically different than what I imagined myself doing, but the career trajectory has been really good. I've been given a lot of responsibility early on at this company, and so yeah, it's been really enjoyable. So although what I do now doesn't align with what I had previously kind of thought I would do, I'm really grateful for where I'm at because I really like software now. I know I'll own the nerdiness of that, but yeah, so that's my response.
Yeah, I'll try not to ramble too long on here, but it's a great question. So I'm a civil engineer. I studied civil engineering here, and for me, it was kind of a very similar question to me. It was like, well, civil, I enjoy nature and the outdoors, and that's probably the most applicable engineering discipline to that. And there are realities to what the professional workforce, I also sit behind a computer a lot more than I anticipated. And again, some of that's by choice. I think what I want to make sure I don't forget to say is one of the things that I think is really great about Calvin is the exposure you can get to a lot of different things while you're here. And I guess that'd be my advice to any of you that do pursue engineering. Take advantage of those things. I actually originally, within civil, intended to go kind of a structural engineering route, and I did internships. So internships are huge, and I think some people think, what makes a successful internship? Well, for me, a successful internship was going, I don't actually want to do structural engineering. And those are the types of things to take advantage of while we're here. Again, one of my reasons for coming to Calvin, I grew up outside of Denver, and I came in with a fair number of credits that could have been applied to gen ed courses. And all the other schools I applied to out near me, I probably would have ended up at University of Wyoming if I didn't come here. And like day one, I would have been pick your not only discipline, but sort of subset of that, and you set your course. But here at Calvin, actually all engineers, unless something has changed since I've been here, you have the same curriculum the first 2 years, so all of us sitting here are exposed to those different things. Because I think a lot of us can come in here and have an idea of what we think it's going to be, or even what we want, and then you might just end up getting exposed to something different, and that's my story. And I also love what I do now, but it is not the picture I had in my head.
So my experience was I came to Calvin and I wanted to do it all, to be quite honest. There was a moment of time that I was registered to be a civil engineer, so you make that choice at the end of your second year. I love structural. I took all of my electives as structural. I graduated and I was about a class away from having a double major, or having a, yeah, I think I was a class away from like a double major in structural. I did 5 years though, so. And Calvin, that kind of speaks to my experience. So I mean, when I say I wanted to do it all, I spent my first year in the engineering program. And after my summer internship, I realized, which was automotive driven, and at that time, automotive wasn't going awesome in the industry. I left that and said, I don't want to do engineering. I don't want to be here in this environment. This isn't for me. And so I immediately went pre-med the following year. And then after one semester of that, where I did a lot of biology, human anatomy, and things like that, my roommate, who's a nursing major, I said, when are we gonna like start applying this stuff? It feels like all we're doing is memorizing. Like, when do we do like logic and stuff? And she's like, yeah, you need to go back to engineering. This isn't for you. So quickly realized it's not for me. So I went back to the engineering. I caught up on my electives so that I would be on board, and I rejoined the class behind me, which was great because I got to create networking and relationships with engineers in 2 classes, which I loved. And then I kind of had a really fortunate entry into the job world, I guess you could say. So I started and worked at GMB, where he works now, and some of my first projects here were the arena and the Fine Arts Center. So I got to leave Kelvin and I got to work with Kelvin, and it was awesome. I loved it. Loved every part of it. And I got my license, so I'm registered with the state while I was at GMB. And then at some point, I kind of figured out I wanted to see what was on the other side of the industry. So I went and worked for a large manufacturer of HVAC equipment in town. And I worked more as inside sales. And then I took a growth opportunity to call in an architectural firm in Kalamazoo and work on my outside sales skills. And so what I found was at GMB, when you talk about being behind a computer as an engineer, I was on site all the time. I was working with large manufacturers in the area. I was going out on site. I was reviewing my multi-million-dollar facilities that I was a part of the design of. And I love that, and that was the rhythm to my life. And when I went and worked for the manufacturer, I was supporting an outside sales team, so I was behind the desk. And for that moment in my life, it worked for me, and all of that running around I didn't need. It was a transition for me. However, I found to love interacting with customers and talking with customers outside and solving their problems and being challenged in that way, where it was a different way of problem solving. I soon found it was a great fit for my personality. And then about, let's see, like 2 weeks before the world shut down in 2020, I took my position at E3M Solutions. And I took a hybrid sales engineering role, and that actually transitioned into more of a leadership role, where I lead a team, not by myself. We have a leadership group who are 3 of 4 of which are all Kelvin alumni engineers. Small world, we're everywhere. And I have loved working with that leadership team. We have a lot of Kelvin engineers on our staff. We have non-Kelvin engineers on our staff too. Now I have kind of a mix where I'm behind the computer, I'm supporting a team, I'm working with our clientele, and kind of bridging the gaps in between. So as I look back on my career and reflect that, my time behind the computer really taught me the basics, just like your time understanding the theory is going to prepare you for the job training you'll get when you get out of college, right? So without my time at GMB behind the computer and learning all those basics, I wouldn't be well versed to have conversations today. I wouldn't have the experience to have conversations today that I can have. I don't know if I necessarily thought this is how my career path was ever going to go when I was at Kelvin. I think God really had a hand in that, to be quite honest. There were very clear moments in my career path that I felt like it was not my choice, it was his. So I will definitely say that. And then, with my staff that I have now, I have a mix. I have people that want to be in charge, back of a computer. They want to be the person that doesn't want to interface, right? It kind of comes down to your personality type and what you start learning about yourself as you get into your career of what suits your personality, what your strengths are, what you need to work on, opportunities to build strengths and to build skill sets. I won't say your weaknesses, because, right, I think they're just opportunities. But I have a mix of staff. So, yeah, I've done a ton of job shadowing in my career for engineers that are in high school, engineers that are in college, in the program, that are trying to make these big decisions in their life. And what I always say to them is, check your program first, because if you want to design cars, there are specific programs that you should be in. If you want to be in a more manager leadership program, you need to be at an accredited university. If you need a professional license to do what you want to do in your career, you need to check your accreditation of your program, which Calvin is accredited. You will learn that day one as you enroll here. You will learn how to phrase that appropriately. But there are programs where you can go through and you can learn the skill set to do the job, but if you didn't go to an accredited university, you have to go back and do the classes in order to be at the same level to get licensed. So that's my biggest piece of advice for you as you're looking through what do you want to do. Understand what you need to do to get there, right? Do you need a master's to do it? Do you want to do the master's program and things like that? That's my biggest piece of advice. And then my other big piece of advice would be to job shadow, job shadow, job shadow. I thought I wanted to be a PA my second year. I job shadowed part of my English program to basically job shadow and write a paper on it. And I quickly realized, yeah, I don't think I'm interested in this. I think I'm going to go back to engineering. That's more suited. And I will say, I have had mentors and colleagues in my career who told me when I was young, oh, you're more of an engineer than you think. And no, I'm not, whatever, right? You know, all those things that they say. And I am, and I embrace it, and I own it now. And I am an engineer, and my mother even said to me, too, is like, when she looks back on my childhood, it was very clear now, but she just did not pick up on that message. So I think as you grow in your career, too, embrace those strengths and skill sets that you have, and try and find opportunities with your employer to go where you want to go in your career.
So we've had 2 of our panelists admit they're a geek. Who's next?
Can I just add something really quick? You don't need to do engineering with an engineering degree. When you leave Calvin, you can jump ship entirely, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to transportation planning. An engineering degree is super powerful, especially an engineering degree from Calvin. And so you can do mission work, you can do management, you can do you can
banking,
go to seminary.
finance.
Yeah, you can do finance, all of those things. So if you don't like engineering, through your amazing internship experiences here and stuff, you will figure that out.
Yeah,
And
we
you can
had
go
a
elsewhere.
student graduated 3 years ago, and her internships were in finance after her sophomore year, and I don't know what she did after her junior year because she had a security clearance and can't tell you. It's like, wow.
It is fascinating with LinkedIn these days to go through your class and see what they're doing. And it's very evident that some people that could do the program and they got through it and they thought that's what they wanted, they are doing total 180s and they are doing something different. In finance, I know someone that I graduated that was civil is actually in finance. But then just like where their paths take them and the companies that they work for, I am fascinated by that. And it's a lot of work for, I think Michelle tries to keep up on where everyone goes, and that is a workout, but it's fascinating is all I will say. There are a lot of alumni around, and they're doing things that you would never have dreamed that you were going to do when you were in college. And my favorite question for them is like, talk me through that career path. Like, how did you bridge that from one step to the next and get there? And sometimes they just can't explain it. It just happened.
You had a question? Oh. Great. Yes. Mechanical and aerospace, you're interested, right? So it's a great question. Do you go mechanical? You're interested in aerospace. We'll turn it over if anybody wants to attack it. Otherwise, I've got great answers to it. But we brought them in for a reason.
So one of my best friends from the program that we graduated, she's also female. She wanted to go into aerospace, so she did mechanical here, and then she went and got a 2-year master's, specifically in aerospace, which my understanding, you can tell me I'm wrong, is very common. in that industry from what she has told me. But that was something that was her passion. She didn't know that 100% when she was here in the program until maybe senior year, that's where she wanted to go. But that's how she handled it. So she, I think, went to the same as Professor Hune, so I think Illinois.
Illinois,
Yep.
Urbana-Champaign.
So she went to Illinois, and she got her 2 years master. She works for GE now, but she's worked for another couple companies in town. So.
Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
I actually talked to a recruiter when I was a senior in high school because I was interested in aerospace as well at one point. And it was funny, it was at NDSU, so North Dakota. And he told me, he said, don't do a 4-year aerospace program, which was like, why would you, someone in the aerospace department, tell me not to do that? And I think it just goes back to what you were saying about the master's being a little more valuable for that. So like getting a general 4-year degree in mechanical engineering will open more doors for you, and if you still want to go in that aerospace path when you're done with your 4 years, then that option is totally there for you.
And we've been hearing the same about biomedical too, that recruiters from Stryker have said similar. Don't get a biomedical, then that's all you can do. But if you're mechanical, that's, and then I've got to make your question worse, because aerospace consists of structures. Well, that's a civil engineering problem. And it consists of fluid mechanics, which is often a mechanical engineering problem. And it consists of controls, which is an electrical engineering problem. So which part of aerospace do you want to go? So it gets even harder. And that's where the master's then, once you've developed and hopefully done some internships, you've then got some experience that'll help guide you in what a master's might look like, or some further training. Yeah?
Specifically to like mechanical engineering students, what kind of like hands-on projects do you work on throughout your years here?
So, a common question, good question. What are the hands-on things that you work on as a mechanical? But I'm going to throw that out for everybody. What kinds of hands-on things did you do at Calvin in your experience?
I guess freshman year, in like our basic 101 class, we did like a water bottle rocket project, which was pretty fun. I'm sure everyone remembers that. So that's kind of just like intro hands-on stuff. A little bit of design with that, but not a ton. We also did like an engineering 101 service project. So I know like that can vary across groups, but like my group, for example, we built like part of a birdhouse. So a lot of that was like designing in CAD and like working in the wood shop. So that was kind of just like intro, get into things. As you move on in the mechanical program, a lot of it can be based on like thermo and like fluid analysis. So we did a lot of hands-on projects with like thermal plates with like temperature testing, and also like fluid flow through various tubes. So you could consider that like relatively hands-on in the lab. But then like senior year with the senior design project, depending on what your group chooses, you can get really hands-on with like building and analyzing things that way. So it kind of progresses as you go, and depends, like there are clubs, right? So like Professor Tubergen helps a little bit with some of, it used to be like Mars Rover, right? And now it's
we have Mars Rover. We've typically got, there's a group of students that come in with first robot experience who want to extend that. And so we've got a robot club that's been pretty active for the last 4 years, and are currently building a robotic football team to compete against other collegiate schools in a couple weeks.
If you have like time for that, obviously that can be really crucial for getting more hands-on experience outside the classroom too, which I wish I had time for, but it was never really something I knew about until a little later on.
You tend to get experience hands-on regardless of where you're at in the program by the labs. So a lot of the labs are pretty hands-on, and you get to do things weekly, bi-weekly, just to get your hands on something smaller. And then he highlighted a lot of the bigger projects, but we can't rule out the wind. Are you guys still making the windshield mechanism in the senior level class? You know, the one that's always a challenge.
Dynamics of machine with the windshield wiper.
Yeah.
Apparently that's been a problem for a long time.
That's a challenging one. Seems pretty simple.
Oh, I can add to that. Yeah, there's a lot of projects. I would almost argue that there are too many hands-on projects because I am drowning right now. Yeah, that's true. That's kind of funny. I did not mean to.
For the swimmer to drown? That's
but
good.
In my 328 class, which is thermodynamics, we're analyzing an air conditioning unit, and we're doing system flow analysis on that, and we're also doing a car engine. We're doing a one-cylinder engine. So stuff like that, very similar to a lawnmower. So there's a lot of hands-on stuff, and you'll actually get to see both of those machines later today with Professor Hune, I think, if you keep following the engineering tour.
If you do that tour at 1:30, I was selling earlier.
So you'll be able to see that stuff, and it's really cool. So other than that, lots of projects. And my class, which is actually a cool thing with engineering, I believe 333, which is like the final thermodynamics installment, there's like an intro to class, and then there's a thermodynamics, and then it's kind of like take it one step farther. With Professor Hune, he's kind of the thermodynamics guy here at Calvin. They're building a new Commons building, so I don't know how much of a tour you've had of Calvin, but where the Commons dining hall is and the Johnny's and the school store, that building is actually going to get ripped down soon. And so they're building a whole brand new building, and they're connecting the library and the CFAC and all these other different things, and they're leaving room in the basement for there to be a new power generation plant. And so we actually get to help design that next semester as like a theoretical thing. So with Engineering 333, we get to go through and design like this cool new thing. And there's like a unique project each time. So yeah, that's a cool thing. There's a new project to each class. So
Yeah, I just took that class last fall, actually. And the project that we did is we worked with Habitat for Humanity, and they're trying to go away from like gas houses to fully electric houses. So our class actually designed the house from an electric standpoint to reduce carbon emissions, which is pretty cool. So usually Professor Hune does a good job of like bringing in outside clients into the class and then working with them. So that one is probably my favorite project that we've done so far from a hands-on standpoint.
Anybody else?
I was reading the concentration model program.
Yeah.
It says a little asterisk, possibly insert summer program in Germany. I was wondering what like your study abroad program kind of looked like.
So he's noticing the summer program in Germany as an option in the model program. And so who's traveled internationally and done international studying? Go ahead.
So Bryce and I have went to the summer program in Germany. So the summer program in Germany gives you a great opportunity to do engineering 202, which is statics and dynamics. And it also allows you to to immerse yourself into a different culture. I think the best thing about the program too was at the end of it, you had the chance to go wherever you like by train. I personally went to Paris as well as the Czech Republic. And it was such a great experience in general. And just doing that summer program in Germany did not set me back whatsoever. It's already ingrained in the program to be able to do something like that. So you do have the chance to do something with going abroad. I think we also have a program for going to China. I'm not sure if they're still doing it this year. Well,
the program in China was canceled due to COVID, but they're still doing it. So probably by the time it would come around to you, they'll have it.
COVID has made some changes, but summer program in Germany is going this year.
Also, I just got back from Ecuador, and we did a huge engineering water testing thing there, and we had all concentrations present. It was a fantastic trip. We do trips to Ecuador, to Honduras, the Netherlands, China, South Korea, Germany, of course, and Germany's the biggest one, right? It's really hard for engineers to study abroad, typically, but we have these great experiences that enable you to do that, even with such a demanding major.
And athletics and music. How does that fit in with transportation planning, Bryce?
Deutsch is amazing. Oh my gosh, the Germany is so good at public transit, but I was very interested in going into transportation planning because I like urban design. And when you go to Calvin and you expose yourself to so many different schools of thought, ways of approaching problems, such as urban development in geography and in your core classes, which is where I kind of picked up some things. I'm like, oh wow, there's these classes that I have to take. Well, I might as well take some cool ones. And then I got really into it. I got really into GIS and really into city planning and sustainable design that I was like, oh my gosh, well, engineering and city planning really go together quite well.
yeah, just to, I guess, follow up, lots and lots of opportunities here. Like I said, expose yourself to as many different things, environments as you can. We talked about internships, but international experiences are huge as well. I guess my own personal story, I came here, had never traveled abroad in my life, and fell into my sophomore year a trip to Cambodia. It was kind of an international development and engineering department sponsored trip, and that was one of the things for me with civil engineering as well, was the tie-in with international development and mission work. And I guess without going into too many details, by the time I left Calvin, I had traveled to Cambodia, China, Peru, and Kenya, and have since led a couple of student groups like Bryce's to Ecuador, an ongoing relationship with an engineer out there who does rural water system development. A recent graduate actually just committed to a 2-year, I say recent, but I'm getting older, I guess. A graduate from a handful of years ago is now going and working with them over in Ecuador. So it's spring-fed water systems, and yeah, again, take those opportunities. Like I said, I didn't even know they existed, so that's my advice to you. Look into them, plan how to make those fit into your schedule, because it's life-changing experience. I've since traveled to, again, since graduation, those doors that opened up, I've done mission well repair work in Mozambique. Like I said, I've been back to Ecuador twice with Calvin, actually, and it's, again, those types of passions that you may or may not even know you have that can be awakened with those types of experiences.
One question we really haven't, and it's a significant and most everybody wants to hear about it, is, and I want to start with you, Ashley, and we'll go through everybody, but tell me about internships or research opportunities at Calvin, and how, and if you want to reflect briefly on how that changed for you guys at the end, how that changed your career path, but then what you guys, as still at Calvin, what you've done to help inform you about what you're looking for either next year or Sam 2 years from now, or a year and a half from now.
Yeah, so Calvin has a pretty good internship assistance program, I will say. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking for an internship and you raise your hand and put your name in the hat, they're going to help you and walk alongside you to try and find something that's within reason of something you're interested in. As was pointed out, there are things that you go through and you identify a successful internship could be that you realize you don't want to be in that industry. So I had already touched base with that on my internship in automotive. That was for my first 3 years. I still did go back and work with that same company after my first summer. And then my last internship was actually at Amway, and it was a hybrid, kind of a marketing, packaging engineering internship, so something kind of completely out of the wheelhouse, but testing their packaging and coming up with testing methods for their makeup that they ship internationally. So that was very interesting and different than anything I had done before, and it stretched my thinking, and there was a lot of growth and a lot of even like personal presentation skills that I gained that summer, which are great. From there, I went into HVAC. So my internship kind of shaped what I kind of started to develop that I didn't want to be involved in industry, what I could be open to, and then what I could take from the ones that maybe weren't directly in my interest, but I could apply to myself and my career from there. There are other research opportunities at Calvin. I was not personally involved in any of those, but they were happening while I was here. So it's not a new thing. It's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, I had an internship after my sophomore and junior year. I came from Southern California, and I did have a little bit of difficulty finding one initially, and that was mostly because I was really stubborn and wanted one right by my parents' house, basically. Didn't want to have to commute to LA or anything like that. But I found one, and it was almost more of like a mechanical/civil one to begin with. I did a lot of CAD work the first year, so the breadth of knowledge you get from exposure to other departments is really useful. Most times an electrical engineer is not going to know how to use AutoCAD and Inventor and things like that. But they wanted me back the next year, so I went back and I learned a lot of controls and robotics type things, and that ultimately just opened doors. If anything else, I really enjoyed my internships. I actually was just texting with my boss from my internship today, but he's still in California. But it opened doors. The company I'm working for now was interested in me initially because of my PLC and robotics experience, which is just generic controls experience. I interviewed for a position, and it was very clear it wasn't going to be for me. It was too much travel, and that's when they came back with a software engineering position. So my internships were definitely key in getting a job that I'm interested in now.
Yeah, so quick show of hands. We said Seattle. Are most everyone else around West Michigan or from where else? Shout it out. Local, mostly local, seems like. Yeah, so Calvin is extremely well connected, regionally especially. So the internship assistance that you get here is huge from a networking standpoint as well as the work experience. Like Alex, like I said, I'm not from around here. I grew up just outside of Denver. And I will say that, if you are going to be picky about, geographies or things like that, I wanted to intern back in Colorado as well. Still, like resources and help from here, but if you're going, back to hometown or whatever, you probably have to put a little bit more work in yourself. But in the area, Calvin's super well connected. So I ended up interning, and I did intern after my sophomore and junior years with a huge international firm at the time called CH2M Hill. It's now a part of Jacobs Engineering. And I was doing, like I said, at the time I thought I wanted to go into structural, and I probably knew already before my second summer interning there that I didn't want to do structural, but again, it's a company that does a lot of different things and wanted to keep my foot in the door. But yeah, the really invaluable experience. The things you learn in the classroom are obviously super applicable, but in terms of getting a taste of what that actually looks like day to day, the internships are huge. I also did not participate in research. I don't know if any of you guys can speak to that, but that's my journey.
I had an internship this past summer with a local guy who kind of runs through framing houses, and I totally learned that I do not want to frame houses or design houses, and I really didn't like it. But that's okay, because I got a different internship designing with EA Benelli and Associates this coming summer, which I'm super excited for, designing like food processing plants and stuff. And that internship that I didn't like actually is what got my foot in the door and what my interviewer really liked about me. So, which is really cool. And then I'll add on another thing. We have a super cool internship coordinator. She's sitting in the back, and I can't remember her name. And
Jessica just came in.
I feel awful, but I probably get 7 or 8 emails a week from her saying, hey, there's people from such and such company, and they want engineers. And if you don't have an engineering internship, like, here's one, like, right for you. Just respond to my email, and you have an internship, which is, like, the coolest thing ever. So, like, that's great. And then there's also, with the Career Center, like, rooms here on campus that they have set up for interviewers to come and interview people. So you don't even have to leave campus to get a job. Like, people will come here to interview you, because that's how much Calvin engineers desired.
I'm going to steal that for one more second. Yeah, in 3 years, when you want an internship, just call me. You'll have one.
Yeah, that's all I got.
You work with professors who are at the top of their field at Calvin, and they are researching things more often than not. So like I know we have a mechanical prof who is researching tornadoes and their effect on cars. That's really cool. I was actually going to research with him, and then the pandemic hit, so I couldn't pursue that. But you do have the chance to do stuff like that with professors in multiple disciplines, not just engineering, even though if you major in engineering. I did a lot of chemistry water research, which is really cool. So you can do those things. I had an internship with the Washington, D.C. Metro this past summer, and it was fantastic. It taught me a lot about engineering in the field, especially project management. And you can get those internships outside of Calvin. No, they don't know who Calvin is as a university. We are not Michigan State or some massive, massive university that everybody knows. But what they do realize is in your interview, you talk different than the people that are coming from Michigan State. And you know different things, and you act differently because you have a Calvin education, and it sets you apart for companies all around the globe. So you can get it. It's possible.
I think to add on to that, I think Calvin engineers are all over the place. And so you don't necessarily need to think that you're limiting yourself to the Grand Rapids area whatsoever. I had an internship experience last summer working at Kraft Heinz Company in Illinois, which is a huge company and it's a dream job. And during my internship, I've realized that I am definitely different from other engineers that worked at the company alongside me. I noticed that I speak differently, as Bryce said, in terms of being able to communicate my value, being able to network and relate to other persons, and I think just being able to adapt really well to a different environment and express different ideas in different ways that other people would be able to understand.
Yeah, so I've had 2 internships, one after my sophomore year, and then one this past summer after my junior year. First one was more in mostly like mechanical CAD design, doing a lot of product testing, developed tests for products at the company I was working at. And then this past summer, I interned at the same company, but in a different group. And I did a lot of electrical parts to that, so like analyzing LEDs, writing code and software to run those PCB boards that we were running them on, and also doing a lot of like optical analysis. So at Calvin, I haven't taken a single class in optics, and I've taken like maybe 2 or 3 electrical classes. But just like with the broad range of our degree and like knowing that you're a Calvin engineer, they would generally trust you to go into a different area at the company, even if your degree or your certificate doesn't say that's what you studied. Companies will like realize that you're willing to learn and adapt and that you can figure things out. So that was something cool that I learned in my internships. And then also just like with the internship class that we have, I know we had a different professor when I was doing that sophomore year, I believe it was. But I helped my boss this past fall sift through a bunch of different resumes for kids that are trying to intern for this next summer. And I've looked at some resumes and I'm like, what are you even thinking when you're like writing these things down? Or like I've just seen paragraphs of words, don't even like have their name on the top of it, no email or anything. So something that Calvin does really well is they teach you how to write a good cover letter and make a resume that gets to the point and that employers will want to look at, and that definitely sets us apart from other schools.
Great, thank you. Because of time, we got a couple minutes to get to lunch. And then before we do that, I got one announcement, and that is again, there is a tour of the engineering facilities. That includes facilities in the science building and in the engineering building that starts in 1:30, so that'll be immediately after lunch. That is meeting up in the basement of the lower level of the atrium between the science building and DeVries Halls. But your next activity is lunch, which starts at 12:30. So it's 4 minutes from now, and it's a good 4-minute walk, so it's a good time to quit. But before we do, let's I'll kind of open with a word of prayer for lunch, even because I don't know that they're going to do that there. So let's join in prayer. God, thank you for everyone that's participated here. Hope that people have had their questions answered, that their hearts have been calmed a little bit with some of the anxiety that can hang over such a significant decision like this. We pray that they may have found answers to some of their questions and that they might find people this afternoon who can answer other of their questions that remain. Bless them as they walk around the facility today and help them to enjoy their time here on our campus. Thank you for their presence. In your name we pray. Amen. All right.